And Democrats move to get more answers on government mega projects and real estate deals. Major blow for Donald Trump as his endorsed candidate comes up short in Alabama. And world leaders, business titans, and celebrities band together to fight climate change. Good evening and welcome. Opposition lawmakers are moving to shine a bigger spotlight on what they say are too many unanswered questions about public spending on mega projects and shady real estate deals. Today, pan-Democratic legislators voted to set up 2 LegCo committees to show how changing the Legislative Council rules of procedures will impact the rights of citizens. Anne-Marie Sim reports.
2 petitions were presented during the weekly Legislative Council meeting this morning. Opposition lawmakers voted first on a probe into cost overruns for constructing the multi-billion-dollar Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge.
The SAO government has never explained in detail the cost overrun. This council has never had the opportunity to conduct a focused and detailed investigation in cost overrun, and our duty is to monitor public spending and funding proposals.
A select committee can be set up if it's backed by 20 lawmakers who vote by standing up to be counted.
Then 23 members support this petition. The request will be referred to a select committee for consideration.
Also up for a vote, a probe into the Link REIT's planned $23 billion sell-off of its shopping malls. The move has sparked concern from residents of nearby public housing estates that the sale would further drive up rents, force out small businesses and leave locals with only expensive chain stores.
Then SAO government has no mechanism to review on a regular basis the impact of the divestment on residents of subsidized housing, nor any mechanism to make up for the shortfall in facilities as a result of the divestment.
Among those who stood up to support that probe was New People's Party lawmaker Regina Ip, who's accusing the Link REIT of threatening to evict her party members because she's been critical of the real estate investment trust.
And we have a total of 24 members supporting this request, and the petition is referred to a select committee.
One of the key changes to the rules of procedure proposed by the pro-establishment camp is for the threshold for presenting a petition to LegCo to be raised from the current practice of requiring the endorsement of 20 lawmakers to 35. Once the amendment is passed, it'll be more difficult for the opposition to conduct independent inquiries into public issues, and that's what the camp wanted to highlight today.
This demonstrates very well that we cannot change the present rules and regulations easily. By changing the present rules and regulations, the pro-establishment camp is take away the right of the legislator and the public to inspect and to regulate the government's wrongdoing.
Anne-Marie Sim, TVB News.
Well, meanwhile, mainland authorities have confirmed the latest budget estimate for the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge is now 48 billion renminbi. That means the project is now 9.9 billion yuan over the original estimate. Hong Kong will have to fork out 2 billion yuan of that total. The Transport and Housing Bureau says the governments of the 3 regions are paying 4.6 billion yuan extra, with the rest to come from bank loans. The local government will need the approval of the Legislative Council before they can pay the cost rise. A doctor in the DR Beauty Center manslaughter case may have to go through a second trial. This after the jury failed to reach a verdict for her yesterday. Meanwhile, the judge told those who were found guilty that jail time is unavoidable. Wenna Wong tells us more.
DR Beauty founder Stephen Chow and lab technician Chan Kun-chung were driven to the High Court in a prison van this morning. Yesterday, they were both found guilty of manslaughter by a 9-member jury panel. During mitigation today, Chow's lawyer said his client is going through a difficult time in life right now. Apart from having to face civil charges from the victim's family, Chow's own sister was also one of those affected by the problematic CIK treatment at the crux of this case. And Chow's father passed away last month, so he hopes the judge will release him on bail to handle the funeral. The 53-year-old Chow is a graduate of the University of Hong Kong's Faculty of Medicine. He was a family doctor before starting the DR Beauty empire. Meanwhile, Chan Kun-chung's lawyer said the 32-year-old realizes he had made a huge mistake and pleaded for a lighter sentence. But High Court Judge Judiana Barnes said the case is the first of its kind in Hong Kong. Not only did the defendants offer an experimental treatment that they themselves were not familiar with, they also promoted it to customers as a beauty treatment. Justice Barnes said these were clearly factors high risk decided to adjourned to news.
Overseas now, in one of the most controversial and watched U.S. Senate race, Donald Trump won a for believing in him. Moore demanded a recount.
Provision.
Well, meanwhile, the White House is attempting to fend off the layers of anything.
I see it as a sexist smear. It is, and the president's effort. It's not going. Women out there who have been speaking out every day since his inauguration.
There's no way that it's sexist at all. This is simply talking about a system that we have that is broken, in which special interests control our government, and I don't think that there's probably many people that are more controlled by political contributions than the senator that the president referenced.
U.S. prosecutors have filed federal charges against the suspect in Monday's attempted suicide bombing in one of New York City's busiest commuter hubs. U.S. prosecutors charge Akayed Ullah with bombing a public place, destruction of property by means of explosives, and using a destructive device. Authorities say the Bangladeshi citizen admitted he set off a pipe bomb in the name of ISIS, aiming to murder as many people as possible. This had President Trump renewing calls to tighten immigration rules.
There have now been 2 terrorist attacks in New York City in recent weeks carried out by foreign nationals here on green cards. The first attacker came through the visa lottery, and the second through chain migration. We're going to end both of them. Congress must get involved immediately, and they are involved immediately. And protecting our country should always be a bipartisan issue.
Elsewhere, 50 world leaders, investment fund executives, and energy magnates have wrapped up a summit in France aimed at building global momentum for the Paris Climate Accord. The fight against climate change also got some star power. Sonia Artero reports.
A one-day climate summit organized by France 2 years after the Paris Accord was signed ended when French President Emmanuel Macron announced 12 major commitments. Among them, a $300 million pledge to fight global warming by transitioning towards a decarbonized economy. Macron also vowed to launch a One Planet coalition to monitor achievements. Even though U.S. President Donald Trump pulled America out of the Paris Climate Accord, California's governor vowed to stay in.
And we're not going to turn the corner until we convince the leaders of the biggest polluting nations to do much more than they are now. And yes, you should applaud that. because they're not listening yet.
One by one, stakeholders promise to get tough on climate change, starting with a serious move by the World Bank.
Today, we're announcing that the World Bank Group will no longer finance upstream oil and gas after 2019.
We need policymakers and central banks, stock exchanges, pension funds, rating agencies, and all financial actors to align investments with the needs of climate action and sustainable development.
And in terms of mitigating the impact on those who are poorest in the world, I've announced today a further £140 million that the United Kingdom will be spending in helping those countries that are most impacted by climate change.
And hopefully this will be what you and I as a consumer or a labour union will ask for the pension system that their members are in. Do you follow these standards? If you don't follow these standards, we don't want to have our pensions in your pension fund.
As those responsible for climate change, the international community needs to support Haitian-led climate adaptation efforts with more financial and technical resources to respond to the urgent needs on the ground.
We would take step-by-step, incremental steps. Yes, it would go slow, but eventually, after taking step by step by step by step, we will finish our marathon, and we will create a clean energy future.
Sonia Artero, TVB News.
South Korea's president vowed closer ties with China as he kicked off a 4-day visit today in Beijing. Moon Jae-in hopes to thaw months of strained relations that have frozen trade and business between the two countries when he meets President Xi Jinping tomorrow. Moon's first trip to China since he took office in May comes after the two countries agreed to normalize ties, strained by the deployment of the American Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System. China has said the move threatens regional security, but South Korea has promised it has no intention to use the missile defense network to snoop on China. Both countries have much at stake on the Korean peninsula, and Seoul and Beijing share the goal of getting Pyongyang to give up its nuclear weapons and stop testing long-range missiles. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson has offered to begin direct talks with North Korea without preconditions if it holds off on weapons testing. The softening stance backs away from a key U.S. demand that Pyongyang must first accept that giving up its nuclear arsenal would be part of any negotiations. Tillerson also said the U.S. is working to tighten enforcement of international sanctions against North Korea, especially further measures that China can apply.
We have put in place now over the past many months the most comprehensive set of economic sanctions that I think have ever been assembled through two very comprehensive UN Security Council resolutions with the support, notably, of both China and Russia.
Tillerson's remarks came as South Korea continued military exercises with the U.S.